Hello there, very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the News First team.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekar, and we start off by taking a look at your headlines for tonight.
Kendi Perahera concludes successfully. Sannas handed over to the president. Health crisis worsens. Government doctors organize press conferences across the island calling for immediate solutions. Multiple factions question how a renewable energy project can be awarded to an Indian company as a government-to-government arrangement. Letters against the conduct of the US envoy in Sri Lanka. Sinopec officially launches operations in Sri Lanka. 3 rupee discount for fuel. Former President Sirisena says the SLPP is no more.
කොයි ප්‍රතිපත්තියක් දර්ශනයක් හෝ වැඩපිළිවෙලක් හෝ ඒකේ ඉන්න නිලධාරි මණ්ඩලයවත් කවුද කියලා අපි දන්නේ නැහැනේ.
In your top story tonight, the Perahera Sandesha, which states that the Kendi Perahera concluded successfully, was presented to the head of state on Thursday afternoon at the Presidential Palace in Kendi.
Following the conclusion of the Perahera, the Devarana Nilame and the Basnayaka Nilames visited the Presidential Palace in Kandy and handed over the Perahera Sandesha to the President. The daytime Perahera commenced at the auspicious time set for 1:16 p.m. today from the Askiriya Gedige Raja Mahavihara. The Diya Kapim ceremony or the water cutting ceremony of the Perahera was held at the Gatambe Pier of the Mahavali River early this morning.
Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe has emphasized the dual importance of technology and financial literacy for the next generation. Speaking at the inauguration of the Capital Market Club program in Kandy's Nugavela Central College, the President disclosed key plans for the transformative journey.
The inauguration of the Capital Market Club program across 100 selected schools in Sri Lanka took place on Thursday under the auspices of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The collaborative effort behind this program involves the Presidential Secretariat, the Ministry of Education, the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Colombo Stock Exchange. The Memorandum of Understanding on this program was also signed during the event.
The global economy draws its sustenance from various sources including banks and stock markets. The circulation of funds and the interest is determined from that. It is just one part of the process. My aspiration is to introduce discussions on the central bank report within schools starting from the next year. A seed fund of 10 million rupees has been allocated for the program's initiation. Accordingly, each school will receive 100,000 rupees. I beseech that we confine this financial aspect to this amount. After a year has elapsed, we will evaluate the successful implementation of this program by each school. The winning school, along with its subject teacher and 10 students, will be rewarded with a trip to Singapore to study the workings of its stock market for a brief period.
The Government Medical Officers Association and their branches across the island held several media briefings today to highlight the serious crisis that has affected the health sector of the country. The Colombo District branch of the Government Medical Officers Association convened a media briefing at the Apeksha Hospital in Maharagama, pointing out the crisis sparked by the lack of medicine in the country and the mass exodus of medical professionals from the country.
Maharagama රෝහලිනුත් විශේෂඥවරු වෛද්‍යවරු 5 දෙනෙක් දැනට රට අතහැරලා ගිහිලා තියෙනවා.
5 specialist doctors from the Maharagam hospital have left the country. About 19 other doctors have also left the country. Many more doctors are currently completing their relevant examinations so that they can leave the country. There are many doctors waiting to be assigned to the Maharagama hospital or the Colombo hospital. These 5 specialist doctors are replaced by doctors available in the peripheries. A specialist doctor will come to the Maharagama hospital, but there will be no doctor to replace him in the hospital that he came from.
අපට යම් කිසි පළාතක පිළිකා රෝගය හෝ ඒ විශේෂඥ වෛද්‍යවරයා ප්ලේස් කරන ડોක්ටර් නැති වෙනවා.
තව වෛද්‍යවරුන්
About 5,000 doctors are waiting to travel overseas. This is not the fault of the doctors. They have been pushed to a point where they are leaving the country because of the suffering that they have to go through.
රටහැර දාලා යන තත්ත්වයට පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
අයරෝගාංශයේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් එක වෛද්‍යවරයෙක් ලෙඩුන් 100කට ආසන්න.
A single doctor at the OPD was treating about 100 patients per day. Now that number has increased to 200 to 250. A single doctor has to treat 200 to 250 patients a day. We're at a point where this is getting even worse.
ලබා දෙන්න උන තත්ත්වයට පැමිණලා තියෙනවා. වැඩ ගන්න පුළුවන් උපරිම තත්ත්වය. පන්නාගෙන යන තත්ත්වයකට එවෙන්න ඔන්න මෙන්න ආසන්නේ තමයි දැන් ඉන්නේ.
The media briefing in the Vayamba province was held at the Kunagala Teaching Hospital.
We had 2 neurosurgeons. One of them had resigned and travelled overseas. Now the remaining neurosurgeon has to do the work that was done by the 2 neurosurgeons in the past. He is extremely tired now. He can only perform a limited number of surgeries per day. Because of this situation, we have had to transfer several patients out of this hospital. There are a few patients who had passed away also because of this situation. And this situation has only gotten worse because one of the neurosurgeons had left.
A media briefing was also called at the Hambantota General Hospital.
The Hambantota Hospital has not had an ENT specialist for the past few months. His vacancy has not been filled. Both surgeons have travelled overseas and one surgeon has been appointed in their stead. He is attached to a hospital nearby and he only comes here sometimes. The functions of the emergency room and the operating theatre have stalled. Only one out of the 2 neurosurgeons are working in the Tangol hospital. Only one of the 2 child specialists at the hospital work there now. Only one of the 2 cardiologists are working. One eye surgeon left the country and he has not been replaced. A similar situation is taking place at the Thissa Maharama Hospital and the Valasmulla Hospital. In addition, about 70 grade medical professionals have left the country during the past year.
The media briefing representing the Badula hospitals was held at the Badula General Hospital.
There are no anesthesiologists at the Diyatalava hospital. There is no surgeon at the Velimada hospital. There is only one doctor in some hospitals that are supposed to have 2 doctors. We know that a large number of doctors have passed their exams to work overseas and are waiting to travel overseas. We might even have to shut down all small hospitals and operate only general and teaching hospitals. If steps are not taken to allow doctors to practice in Sri Lanka, there will be no doctors left in the country due to the massive brain drain that is taking place.
These are the views that were expressed at the press briefing held at the Nuwara General Hospital.
During the month of April, we used the drug prednisolone in eye surgeries at the hospital. Out of the 34 patients who were operated on, 17 of them had returned to our hospitals since they had experienced various complications. Out of them, 2 patients had completely lost their sight and the remaining 15 patients are still receiving treatment at special eye hospitals in Kandy and Colombo. We still cannot say for certain how much of their eyesight will be restored. In addition, during the past few weeks, we are facing a shortage of anesthetic drugs for surgeries at our hospital. Therefore, we have postponed all non-urgent surgeries because we do not have sufficient medicine. The Muggin Rutted organization handed over a letter to the office of the Prime Minister seeking an intervention to resolve the health crisis in the country and to remove Minister Kelia Rambukwella from his position.
We came here to request the Minister of Health to be removed from his position immediately. The Prime Minister has the power to make that decision as the leader of the parliamentary group. We came here to remind the Prime Minister of his duties. The Prime Minister is the custodian of the government and he has a responsibility. When a minister is acting in an unsuitable manner, the Prime Minister can intervene. Minister of Health Kelia Rambukwella can be chased away by you via the members of government. The personal secretary of the minister sent him the letter in front of us via WhatsApp. We came here to ask you to intervene to resolve this matter immediately.
News first with the people.
Sri Lanka took on Bangladesh in the second match of the Asia Cup 2023 today at Pallekele. The match between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh took place in Kandy's Pallekele Stadium. Now, TV1 is the official local broadcaster of the 2023 Asia Cup. All matches are being broadcast live on TV1 and on www.sirisatv.lk. Moving on, in more local news, multiple factions have raised concerns over the decision to award India's Adani Group with an on-grid renewable energy development project in Mena and Punarin by considering it as a government-to-government arrangement. Now, these groups have called on the government to disclose the agreements related to the project.
The latest World Bank report on Sri Lanka, titled Offshore Wind Roadmap for Sri Lanka, said the island nation has good conditions for offshore wind and its locational potential is estimated at 56 gigawatts. The roadmap identified two large areas in the Gulf of Mannar that could be suitable for Sri Lanka's first offshore wind project, and accordingly an area in Mannar was allocated for the wind power project that will be initiated by India's Adani Group. In addition, Sri Lanka has allowed the Adani Group to also initiate a renewable energy project in Punarin, and the total investments for both projects is a whopping $442 million. On the 11th of March 2022, the Memorandum of Understanding for the project was signed after the cabinet paper submitted by then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was given the green light by the Cabinet of Ministers. The approval was given based on several preliminary requirements, including the need to pursue action on the next steps of the project based on the outcome of the feasibility study. The cabinet paper also notes that Adani Green Energy Limited of India, which was awarded the project, was introduced to the government of Sri Lanka by the government of India. Another cabinet paper on the same project, dated the 14th of August 2023, notes that the project should be considered as a government-to-government arrangement. Why is this project being termed as a government-to-government arrangement? The main reason to term the renewable energy development project as a government-to-government arrangement is to give the project the necessary legal standing. According to Sri Lanka's Electricity Act, such arrangements can be made according to two methods and two methods only. The first to call for open competitive bids and select the most advantageous bidder. The other is for a proposal to be put forward to the government of Sri Lanka by another government. In this case, that is the on-grid renewable energy development project in Mannar and Punarin. The strategy adopted to award the project to one single company without calling for competitive bids and selecting the most advantageous proposal was to consider it as a government-to-government proposal and award the project to Adani Green Energy Limited. However, several factions continue to raise concerns on how Adani Green Energy Limited can be considered as the government of India.
The government is attempting to consider Adani Green Energy Limited as the government of India and proceed with the project as a government-to-government arrangement. In a government-to-government arrangement, how can the government of India be replaced with Adani Green Energy Limited? Is there a separate schedule in the arrangement to facilitate it? We would like the government to clarify how a government-to-government arrangement was approved with an annexure of this nature that also applies to Section 43 of the Electricity Act. A bill related to the energy sector has re-emerged and the cabinet has reached a decision to award it to an infamous company. We have serious concerns with regard to the decision taken to allow groups like Adani to decide on the country's energy sector. This cabinet paper was first introduced in 2022 during the administration of Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the president who fled the country. The CEB chairman told a watchdog committee that the Indian Prime Minister pressurized the Sri Lankan president to award this project to Adani. However, again, the same CEB chairman said that he was under stress and that he would withdraw the statement. He even stepped down. The cabinet paper went to the ground after the president fled and again has re-emerged under the presidency of a ruler who pickpocketed a mandate. This is a very serious matter. The president does not have a mandate. This relates to a private company in India that has links with Indian Prime Minister Modi. However, simply because of those links, the said company does not become an Indian government company. The president is attempting to do something very wrong by using his powers. We are not aware of the agreement reached with India. What promises did the president make? Is the Indian Prime Minister exerting pressure on the president based on those promises in order to involve the Adani Group? This is an issue that affects the sovereignty of the country and the future of the children. The president has no power to award lands as he pleases.
ජනාධිපතිතුමාට එහෙම බලයක් දීලා නැහැ.
Sri Lanka's State Minister of Power and Energy Indikanru Dheera told News First on Wednesday that the proposal would be directed to the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, which would then follow the directives given by the Attorney General. However, the State Minister said that no decision had been reached on the method by which the project would be awarded.
Sinopec Lanka officially commenced operations with its first franchised filling station in Mathigoda. Petrol and diesel was pumped at a discount of 3 rupees per litre as a market promotion campaign initiated by Sinopec.
Sinopec Lanka said that a supply plan is in motion to progressively hand over all 150 filling stations to Sinopec's management before October. The Kottawa filling station that opened under the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is currently being used for the distribution of Sinopec products. Sinopec has been granted a 20-year license to operate 150 fuel stations and will be able to invest in 50 new fuel stations.
The collective of national organizations handed over a letter to the Minister of Foreign Affairs alleging that the US ambassador to Sri Lanka is overstepping the diplomatic boundaries of the Vienna Convention.
A delegation from the collective of national organizations submitted a letter signed by 66 organizations citing their concerns regarding the conduct of the US ambassador to Sri Lanka to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The letter was accepted by a representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
We printed a book containing all her actions which were in violation of the Vienna Convention, a charge sheet against her. She is acting as a colonial secretary. The president is acting as the governor. When the colonial secretary arrives, the governor welcomes her. During the past few days, we saw how the colonial secretary was escorted by the governor and how she was treated. As a sovereign state, this is humiliating to the people of this country. It is a serious threat to the sovereignty of Sri Lanka. When the British ambassador acted in this manner in 1989, during the term of former President Premadasa, he was declared persona non grata and expelled. In this letter, we informed Ali Sabri to resign if he cannot do this. Otherwise, the people of this country will declare him as persona non grata. No, the minister has not discussed this matter. The Indian ambassador addressed parliamentarians via Zoom and called for the provincial council elections to be held and for the 13th amendment to be implemented. Where else does this happen? Where a foreign minister of another country tells parliamentarians what to do and to amend the constitution. While all protocols are being violated, the foreign minister remains silent. It is humiliating to the people of this country.
We expect
the foreign minister to summon her to the ministry and express the people's opposition and his personal opposition to her actions.
We informed the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that she should be removed from the post of ambassador immediately. The president did not receive the public mandate for this as the successive president. It was a nationalistic public mandate, so please act towards the independence and the sovereignty of the country.
Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will head for Sri Lanka this weekend to further bolster bilateral military ties and cooperation to meet the challenges in the Indian Ocean region. The Times of India reported that Singh will be in Sri Lanka from the 2nd to the 3rd of September.
The Times of India quoted an Indian official in New Delhi to report that India is committed to help Sri Lankan armed forces in capacity and capability building and has extended a $150 million defense line of credit to Colombo. Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will meet Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe and other government officials during his visit.
Sri Lanka's Met Department said that the prevailing showery conditions in the southwestern part of the island could intensify in the coming days. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters are likely in some places in the western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts.
Multiple areas in Sri Lanka received rainfall on Thursday, and Nathunkerni in the Vaunia district received the highest rainfall of 77.5 millimeters during the past 24 hours. A torrential downpour accompanied by gale winds was experienced in Thambalagamuwa, Kantale on Wednesday. For the first time in almost 8 months, a house in the Singhapura village was damaged by inclement weather. Heavy downpours were experienced in the Badulla town on Thursday evening, and it lasted for about an hour. Yet several areas in Sri Lanka continued to experience a dry spell. The Disaster Management Centre said that 306,934 people from 89,085 families across 19 districts were affected by the arid weather conditions. Over 70,000 people are affected in the Jaffna district. The capacity of the Kanchikudichiaru reservoir, one of the main water sources in Ampara, is 6,700 acre-feet, and it has completely dried up. Animals were also seen in distress due to the lack of water in the area. Over 100 acres of rice fields cultivated by 60 agrarian families in the Thimbirivava village in Kuliyapitiya were destroyed due to the drying up of the Thimbirivava.
බලන්න මහත්තයෝ මේ වගේ එක වී ඇටයක් තියනවාද කියලා. ගොවියෝ හරි අසරණ වෙලා තියෙන. ණයවත් ගෙවා ගන්න විදියක් නැහැ මේවා හින්දා. දැන් සමහර කට්ටිය ඉතින් අවසානයේ මේ පිදුරුවට කපන්න සිද්ධ වුණේ. කිසිම දෙයක් නැහැනේ.
In more local news, the fourth magistrate issued a notice to Propaganda Secretary of the Frontline Socialist Party, Duminda Nagamur, to appear in court on the 6th of September. The notice was issued after considering an application made by the Criminal Investigations Department requesting the court to summon Duminda Nagamur with regard to an investigation conducted by the CID.
Minister of Public Security Tiranalis had informed the Criminal Investigations Department to conduct a comprehensive inquiry into the statements made by the Propaganda Secretary of the Frontline Socialist Party, Duminda Nagamur, during a press conference held on the 11th of August 2023. During the press conference, Duminda Nagamur claimed that Minister Tiranalis had invested on an island located in Europe and that the Janata Vimukti Peramuna was also involved. The CID informed the court that a statement needs to be recorded from Duminda Nagamur. However, the CID has not been able to locate him. The CID therefore requested that the court summon Duminda Nagamur. Thereafter, Fourth Magistrate Tirina Gamage issued notice on Duminda Nagamur to appear in court on the 6th of September.
Minuwanguda organizer of the United National Party, Professor Ashu Mara Singha, said that the president possesses the vision to build Sri Lanka.
The president engaged in a successful visit to Singapore and discussions took place on a program that will steer forward. The president has a vision on how we need to move forward with the latest technology. That is why he is speaking about green hydrogen and carbon credit as well as nanotechnology along with artificial intelligence. Why does he speak of these during his overseas visits? He has a vision to build the country and on the research required to boost reserves. That is why he is steering the country's foreign policy in the correct direction while working closely with other nations. He is steering the country as a leader who can be trusted by the whole world.
Chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, former President Maithripala Sirisena, said that he is ready to form a broad alliance based on principles.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණ මොනතරම් අභියෝගයක් වෙනවද ඔබතුමාලට මේ ඉදිරි මැතිවරණවලදී?
ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණ අපිට කිසිම අභියෝගයක් නැහැ.
The SLPP is not a challenge to us. They had no hope. No one knows what happened to the head of state in the end. The SLPP has no public mandate today. They are trying hard to receive a public mandate. The SLPP is not a challenge to us. It is not even a party. Do they have office bearers? Do they have a policy and a vision? We don't know their program or their office bearers. The SLPP should publicize the party constitution.
ඔබතුමාලගේ තත්ත්වය බලලා ඒ පැත්තෙන් නැත්නම් පොහොට්ටුවේ පැත්තෙන් යම් අය ඔබතුමාලා සමග එකතු වෙලා වැඩ කරන්න කටයුතු කරොත් මොකක්ද එතන තත්ත්වය මොන විදිහටද ඔබතුමාලා ඒවා බාරගන්නේ?
ඔව් අපි විවෘත ආරාධනයක් කරනවා මේ
We're extending an open invitation to members of all parties, not just the SLPP, and asking parliamentarians and ministers to join us to form an alliance or a coalition to establish a good government. We will not accept those facing corruption charges, and they will not be given nominations. No one knows if the parliamentary or presidential election will be held first. There are also rumors of provincial council elections being held to assess the situation. Only government leaders know what is happening. We don't know, but we are preparing for any election.
මොකක් හරි එන ඕන මැතිවරණයකට සූදානම් වෙලායි අපි කටයුතු කරන්නේ.
වර්තමාන රජයේ ක්‍රියාකලාපය ගැන ඔබතුමා සතුටු නැද්ද කියන්නේ දැන්?
We cannot be happy about the actions of the present government. The public mandate is against the government.
According to Verite research, despite the Right to Information Act's proactive disclosure requirement, only 18% and 25% of information required to be disclosed on large-scale infrastructure projects were proactively disclosed online in 2022 and 2023 respectively.
In a statement, Verite Research said the information, when available online, was mostly available in English, even though the RTI Act mandates disclosure in Sinhala and Tamil, with English required only if feasible. In 2022, 18% of the information was available in English, but only 5% in Sinhala and 4% in Tamil. This trend continued in 2023, where 25% was available in English, with only 8% in Sinhala and 8% in Tamil. Infrastructure Watch, a trilingual dashboard housed under Verite Research's publicfinance.lk platform, tracked government compliance with the RTI Act's proactive disclosure requirements for 60 projects worth 1.08 trillion rupees in 2022 and 60 projects worth 2.54 trillion rupees in 2023. Verite Research notes that Sri Lanka's large-scale infrastructure projects have been mired with allegations ranging from corruption, procurement malpractices, unreasonably high costs and negligence of negative environmental impacts. Loans undertaken to fund these projects during the past 2 decades have also contributed significantly to Sri Lanka's debt burden. According to Verite Research, the government's continued lack of transparency surrounding infrastructure projects therefore begs the question as to whether the government will continue to carry out its business behind closed doors, defying legal mandates.
Sri Lanka's key inflation rate eased to 4% in August 2023.
Sri Lanka's key inflation rate eased to 4% in August from 6.3% a month ago, according to the Statistics Department, marking continued stabilization for the crisis-ridden economy. Soaring inflation has battered the economy for more than a year after a severe foreign exchange shortage touched off the Indian Ocean Islands' worst financial crisis in 7 decades. The Colombo Consumer Price Index reflected food inflation, reaching a negative 4.8% in August. After hitting a negative 1.4% in July, non-food inflation was at 8.7%.
The Sri Lanka Police Special Task Force will conduct its 39th War Heroes Commemoration Ceremony on the 1st of September.
The Special Task Force, which actively partook in the triumph of eradicating the 30-year-long LTTE terrorism 10 years ago and is now fully committed to maintenance of law and order in the country, will conduct its 39th War Heroes Commemoration Ceremony on the 1st of September. The STF, Special Military Arm established in 1983 within the police service to counter terrorist activities as an admirable force, marked this commemoration during a special ceremony at the STF subdivision camp in Ampara. The main War Hero Commemoration Ceremony will be held at the Katukurunda Training Wing of the Police Special Task Force. The 39th War Heroes Commemoration Ceremonies will also be held at the Anuradhapura, Kataragama and Ampara STF camps. All arrangements have been made to hold a charity service at the Temple of the Tooth Relic in Kandy in memory of the fallen heroes and disabled war heroes on the 5th of September 2023.
The Australian High Commissioner held talks with Sri Lanka's indigenous community.
The Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, Paul Stevens, met the Vadda chief, Uruwarge Vanilatto, on Wednesday. The High Commissioner tweeted saying it was an honour to meet with the Adivasi community, including Vadda chief, Uruwarge Vanilatto, today and learn about their history and current challenges. The High Commissioner said, quote, "In their efforts to both build sustainable livelihoods and maintain connection to culture and country, I see parallels with Australia's First Nations communities," unquote. Australia's First Nations communities are made up of many different and distinct Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander groups, each with their own culture, language, beliefs and practices. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples are the first peoples of Australia, meaning they were here for thousands of years prior to colonization.
An event to celebrate the World Sanskrit Day was held in Colombo on Thursday.
Sanskrit is among the oldest surviving languages and is a sacred language in several traditions. It is a repository of ancient knowledge including the Vedas and other renowned literary works such as the Yoga Shastra. Sanskrit is also known as the mother of many present-day languages such as Hindi and Sinhala. The celebration of World Sanskrit Day aims to underscore the centuries-old shared heritage of India and Sri Lanka. The event was held in collaboration with several universities in Sri Lanka. This was the first time World Sanskrit Day was observed in Sri Lanka. State Minister of Higher Education Dr. Suren Raghavan was the chief guest of the event. High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, His Excellency Gopal Bagle, and several other diplomats participated in the event.
In news overseas, Japan's Prime Minister ate fish caught off Fukushima's coast on Wednesday to alleviate fears after the controversial release of water from the disabled Okuma nuclear power station.
Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and 3 cabinet ministers enjoyed sashimi fished off the coast of Fukushima at a lunch meeting on Wednesday in an apparent effort to dispel safety concerns following the release of treated radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant. According to Economy and Industry Minister Yasutoshi Nishimura, who was at the lunch meeting, Kishida and the 3 lawmakers sat down to a spread of flounder, octopus and sea bass, as well as fruits and various vegetables in the leader's office. Kishida told reporters who were invited to film the meal, quote, "We eat in support of the Sanriku Joban region. All seafood items from Sanriku Joban are full of appeal," unquote. This region forms part of Japan's northern Pacific shoreline, including Fukushima. The projected decades-long release of treated water has been strongly opposed by fishing groups and criticized by neighboring countries. China immediately banned imports of seafood from Japan in response. In Seoul, thousands of South Koreans rallied over the weekend to condemn the release, demanding Japan keep it in tanks. Japanese officials and the plant operator say treated radioactive wastewater that has accumulated since the March 2011 accident at the nuclear plant, now totaling 134 million tons and stored in about 1,000 tanks, is taking up much of the plant area and must be removed to free up space to build facilities for the plant's cleanup and decommissioning, which are also expected to take decades.
That's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.